Hi, I'm Christy Bemis, and I am your host for Authentic AF Conversations with People in the Ignite Your Life classroom with Christy Bemis. And I'm here as a psychotherapist, a sex educator, and a relationship expert. My true passion in life is to guide you to have deeper connections, stronger ways of communicating with each other, and more intimacy in your life. And each of my guest speakers are here because they feel as passionate about their topic to enhance your relationships as I do. So, welcome. Sit back, grab a journal, grab a pen, because this isn't your normal podcast. This is not just a sit and get. This is a classroom to enhance your experience. There'll be journaling prompts, guided experiences, questions to ponder, and more. So, welcome to Authentic AF Conversations. Hello and welcome. I'm Christy Bemis, and I'm having an authentic AF conversation with Karen Covy today. And I'm really excited about this topic because so many people that come in to my therapy room for couples therapy, they're on the fence. And so I have a perfect guest for all of you today about that topic. So, Karen, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And I want to share a little bit about you. You're a divorce coach, which I'm super curious what that means for you, and also a decision coach, which I love, and a legal consultant, mediator, author, speaker. And I love this title, Recovering Divorce Attorney. So we're going to dive in more about what does that mean for you. You're also the host of the podcast Off the Fence, which I love, mastering decision making, divorce, and more. And on her website, she has divorce is not a one size fits all. So we're diving into that topic a little bit more about what might be unique for each person's divorce. She's also the author of the book When Happily Ever After Ends: How to Survive Your Divorce Emotionally, Financially, and Legally. And so I am so glad that you're here. So many of the clients that I work with just are not prepared to make that decision, and it can be the most painful part of a marriage. So tell me a little bit about yourself that I might have missed in that very brief introduction, and why you are a recovering divorce attorney.
Thank you, Christy. And I thought you did an awesome job in the introduction. So I appreciate all your kind words. I am a recovering divorce attorney because once you say those words, divorce attorney, nobody hears anything else that comes after it. And the work that I do with people now is primarily as a coach and a legal consultant. And the reason for that is because I practiced divorce law for more decades than I will admit to. I saw people would come in and they had all these expectations and assumptions about how divorce worked and what a lawyer was going to do. And most divorce lawyers don't do what the client thinks that they're going to do. It started, just a quick story. I was in the office and it was hot. And so I had the door open. I was having a client meeting and we went over all the things that, normal client meeting. Client leaves. My secretary, who had been sitting at her desk outside the office, came into me and she said, nobody else does that, right? And I was like, does what? Because she had worked for all of the big names of the divorce lawyers in Chicago before me, right? And so I said, what do you mean? And she said, you spent an hour and a half with this person telling them, here's all the different divorce processes. Here's the choices you're going to have to make. Here's your options. Here's what you do know about A, B, and C, and what do you want to do? And I said, well, if the other lawyers aren't telling clients that, what are they saying? And she said, here's a contract, sign here. And I was horrified. And I said, there's so many decisions in the divorce process that people are going to have to make. My job is to inform my clients about what those are and educate them and give them a basis for making the decision in an intelligent way. I don't get to make it for them. It's not my life. And so that sort of opened my eyes to the fact that my colleagues and I were perhaps not always on the same page. And so I stepped into the gap because the other thing I saw was people in court making just crazy choices. And the problem wasn't that the people were stupid. It was that they walked into that courtroom unprepared. They didn't know they were going to have to make a choice about whatever it was that day. Their lawyer didn't tell them. And in fairness to the lawyer, things happen all of the time.
Sure. Yeah.
And for the lawyer, it's rolling out of bed in the morning. They've done it a million times. It's no big deal. But for the client, it's their life. And if they weren't prepared to make a decision about how much should they pay or accept in child support, or what should the parenting time schedule be, or what should
Yeah.
they weren't ready to make that decision. And now they have to make it on the fly when their brains are flooded with stress hormones because they're in court. They're not prepared. They're stressed out and they just say something. And then the next morning they get up and they go, what was I thinking? That is not the way you want to make decisions. And so I started on this mission to help people do divorce in a more intelligent, articulate way so that they could make the decisions in a way that actually worked for them and their family.
Yeah. I love that because I'm divorced. I went through a collaborative divorce model, which required mediation and agreements before the big day, which is somewhat of a celebration in that you're done with the fighting. You're done with the decision is made. It's finalized. But also the worst day of your life. And to come in feeling just unprepared, your approach feels so different. What's really different about the approach that you have with the clients that you work with?
Well, lawyers, first of all, I help clients in a different, I start earlier with them than most divorce lawyers. When I was a divorce lawyer, if a client came
Yeah.
in and sat down in my office and said, I'm not really sure if I want to do this, I would say, well, go figure it out and come back when you're ready because I can't help you, right? I can help you with the divorce. I can't help you with the decision to divorce. And that's unfortunately a place that people get stuck for years. And my thesis is when you're in that limbo, you're not living. You're not 100% committed to your marriage because you kind of want out.
Right.
You're not committed to your divorce because you haven't started that yet. You are just betwixt and between, as they say. And so I work with a lot of people on that decision to begin with. And I also work with people on the process itself. Okay, how do you get ready? I work with people before they go to divorce lawyers, or they should start with a coach before they go to a divorce lawyer because I help them get prepared. And because I have the legal background, and I say I have the training of a lawyer and the heart of a therapist. So I will help them do the things, again, that the lawyer isn't going to help them do. How do you communicate with your spouse? How do you have that first conversation, the talk? Because the
Yeah.
way you start this process influences how it goes from there on. And if you make a mess of it in the beginning, it's hard to backpedal from that and dial down the conflict. And that's something that lawyers aren't good at. They don't have that training, the way that coaches or therapists do. So I bridge the gap. I work at the intersection of law and therapy for the client so that they can figure out the divorce system, because it is a system, and navigate that with more confidence and clarity. Yeah, I know what I want now and I know how to get it. That's huge, right?
Mhm.
So that's what I bring to people as a coach. It's that education, that clarity, that ability to communicate. It's therapy. It's at the intersection of therapy and law.
Yeah, and I love how when we were talking as we were preparing for our time together today, you talked about how people go into that initial consultation even without really knowing what they're going to ask or really knowing what kind of vibe they want to get from their attorney because different people have different processes that they go through. And some attorneys can be very litigious and want to make money and draw things out, and other attorneys want to help you wrap it up. So I love that the coaching piece that you provide is this go into that consultation, interview the right attorney for the right job that you're giving them. And that's just one of the things that you do.
100%. Because as a client, you've never been through a divorce before. You don't know what questions to ask. You don't even know what you don't know. And
Mm.
the dirty little secret of divorce that the lawyer isn't going to tell you is that it's about 10% legal for most people. The rest of it, the other 90%, is money, it's kids, It's practical stuff. It's where do you live? Who do you tell? How do you have conversations? It's communication. It's social. It's all of the things that a lawyer isn't going to do. And what I also realized is that you need to think about your divorce process before you choose your lawyer. You mentioned you did a collaborative divorce.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I've done a lot of collaborative divorces in my day, and it's a great process, but it's not for everybody.
Right.
Mediation, I'm a mediator, love it. Not for everybody. Litigation, I'm a trial lawyer, don't really love it, but it's necessary and some people need it, right? So you've got to figure out what kind of process you want and then find a lawyer who specializes in that, because what happens is you don't know where to find a lawyer. So you're asking around, you're asking friends,
Yeah.
family, therapists, and then you get a lawyer, you walk in and you tell the lawyer your story, and the lawyer says, I will fight for your rights. I will get what you want for you. Or they'll
Mm.
say, we can work this out. And you hear that, oh, they're telling me that I need to mediate, or they're telling me I need to litigate. No, they're just telling you what they do. They're
Mm.
selling you on what they do. So the best thing that you can do is figure out your process first and then
Love that.
choose the lawyer who does that rather
Yeah.
than doing it the other way around, because they're used to doing things a certain way. And the skill set that it takes to be a trial lawyer is very different than the skill set it takes to be a collaborative divorce lawyer. And so you want to match the lawyer with your process, but every divorce is different. And you got to figure out, and you don't even know how to go about figuring it out, what process you should use. Because if you use the wrong process, you're either going to get railroaded, or you're going to get frustrated, or you're going to lose. One way or the other,
Yeah.
wrong process gets you the wrong result. And so that's where I come in as a coach, is to help you figure this out and make that decision.
What are some of the most common pitfalls or ways that divorces just get bogged down or drawn out that you see?
A lot of it has to do with picking the wrong process.
Okay.
And some of it has to do with choosing the wrong lawyer, right?
Mhm.
So here's the thing, the court system works in a regulated, predictable way, right?
Mhm.
So to a certain extent, your divorce is going to take as long as it takes to get through the court system, just because that's the way it is. But you can have lawyers, if you get the right lawyer who knows how to work the system, they can push for you, or they can say, no, you're better off if this goes slowly, because there's a lot of other moving parts that you've got to
Mhm.
get in line before we get there. So it's about having the right lawyer. I mean, my personal record back in the day when I was actively practicing law was 10 days, start to finish. 10 days, these people were done. But
Wow.
that was extraordinarily unusual, because their situation was they had been living separate and apart for a long time before they came in to see me. It was December. They needed to be divorced for tax reasons by the end of the year. And so they were very motivated to
Yeah.
have agreements, and they
Mhm.
did it really quickly. And I was cool. I can write this up and walk you through. That's an anomaly. Some people, their divorce takes them 8, 10 years.
Oh, yes. I have seen that.
And
So painful.
you get bogged down in the system, because the system is not designed for speed. It's not designed for efficiency. It doesn't work the way people think that it's supposed to work. And there are so many things that can happen in the middle of a divorce that can drag it out. If your spouse doesn't want a divorce,
Yeah.
you take longer, they can make it cost more. They can't stop you. But that's one reason. Or if you get a lawyer who is really litigious, or if you're not properly prepared and you don't have all the documents you need, and now you've got to go chasing after documents here, there, and everywhere. There are a
Yeah.
lot of reasons why a divorce can get bogged down, which is again why you want to go into it eyes wide open, totally prepared, and then you are ready to make the system work for you instead of to get used by the system.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that we're having this conversation because a lot of people come to me for therapy thinking my whole goal is to save their relationship, my
Mhm.
end goal. And it's really not. It's if getting a divorce is the best decision that you and your partner end up making after trying therapy, then I'm on board with that. So we talked a little bit about being on the fence being the most painful place in the relationship. And I know I call it relationship ambivalence. And some of my clients have lived in relationship ambivalence since they dated each other. It's just their way of being. But you have this quiz on your website that helps people kind of reveal if they're ready. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
A lot of times people go into divorce
Mm,
thinking that they're ready, but not understanding what ready means, right? To a lot of people, being ready means that emotionally, I think I'm good with this. I'm sure of my decision. Okay. But guess what? That's one little piece. Or other people will think that being ready means I have all my paperwork in order. And yes, that's important, but that's not all there is to being ready, right? It's nuanced. There's a lot of different aspects to it. Divorce touches every aspect of your life. So if you're not ready to go into it legally, financially, emotionally, psychologically, socially, if you haven't thought through all of these different areas, then once you start the process, you're going to get slammed in the face with that.
yeah.
When that happens, is really ugly and uncomfortable. And then you've got to deal with the stuff that would have been so much easier if you had just dealt with it beforehand. For example, documents. If you, before you say, I want a divorce,
Yeah.
you've put together all of your documents. You are so ahead of the game. Now you have them. You have a copy of them in a safe place, maybe in the cloud, maybe wherever. I'm not saying to hide that information from your spouse, but just to make sure you have it secured, right? If you don't do that beforehand and your spouse angry and upset and want a divorce or they're mad at you, guess what? When you go look for those documents that you could have found easily yesterday, today they're missing. Now it's going to take you 6 months through the court system, sending subpoenas, sending discovery requests, doing this, doing that, chasing your tail, thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees to try to get something you could have gotten easily and for free if you had been prepared.
That's so interesting because my husband and I, we really knew we were going to get divorced. It was not a big secret for us. It might have been surprising for other people in our lives, but we had spent a year separating, putting different beneficiaries on our accounts for our, which you have to get all of those things notarized and looking into, we even looked for a second home because we were living in two separate bedrooms in our house. So we were, well, let's just buy a second home. And then we're setting each other up for success afterwards because together we can afford a second home, but individually we might not. And I don't think people think about that. Like when you've made the decision, it doesn't have to be this explosive volcano that's shattering both of your lives. It can be, hey, we gave it a good go and let's set each other up for as much success as each of us can have in the next chapter of our lives.
That's beautiful. That is so perfect. And in a perfect world, that would work that way for everyone. When you, as a couple, can come to a decision that this isn't working for us and we don't hate each other, we don't want to
Right.
each other to the clears, we just need to uncouple, right? Then you can start doing it in the way that you did, which was perfect. It's fabulous. A lot of people can't do that, though. And when you get to that, it's about knowing where you're at. Don't make a big fight and a mess if you can do it your way. Collaborative divorce is a wonderful, wonderful process. If you can make it through the collaborative divorce process and separate everything without causing a war, that's awesome. But if you're stuck in a high conflict marriage with a high conflict spouse, and it's been high conflict since the day you got married and probably before, to think that, and your spouse doesn't want a divorce, to think that this is going to be perfectly amicable, a joint decision, you're dreaming.
Yeah.
It's just not smart. So you want to do something, you make a decision that's kind. Be kind throughout the divorce. Act in integrity with who you are, but also be strategic, right? You've got to understand what you're dealing with so that you can make choices that are appropriate for you and are more likely to get you to the goal that you want at the end of your divorce rather than just end up divorced and you are wherever you're at with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of an explosive mess. So this is controversial, but I'm a big contract person. I
Mhm.
contract even with my friends. I contract when my kids are working for me, have them read a contract and sign it, right? So, where can couples be proactive, prenuptial agreements or after the fact you're married, and how can you shore things up? I know we don't want to look at if this ends in divorce, but how can people shore things up? And you have a really interesting perspective about prenups that I want people to hear.
I think everybody should get a prenup or at least go through the process. Believe it or not, whether you actually sign the document is less important. But the point of the prenup is if you want a valid prenup, both people have to fully disclose their financial status to the other person. So both of you go into the marriage eyes wide open about what you're getting into financially, and you need to have discussions about money. Money is a super emotional topic. People will talk to you about sex before they'll talk to you about money. So it's that full of emotion. So having these conversations with your partner about, okay, are we going to have separate accounts? Are we going to have a joint account? How are we going to pay the bills? What's in your, do we retitle things into both of our names once we get married? How do you want to do this? How do you want to do that? What happens when we have kids? Is one person going to stay home? Is the other one going to be the breadwinner? It forces you to have these very intimate conversations about money that will show you what you're getting into in marriage. So a lot of times having that discussion, it's going to blow up the relationship. And my feeling is if having the discussion about money before you're married blows up your marriage, that's a good thing because now you just avoided a bigger mess because you see that you're not compatible in that area. So you've either got to work things out, which is
Mhm.
also a beautiful thing. It forces you to have conversations and learn how to have difficult conversations without fighting about it, right? In a way that
Yeah.
actually resolves whatever the conflict is. So, on so many levels, it's a really good thing to have, and it makes things perfectly clear. It's this is mine, this is yours, this is ours.
Yeah.
And you all go into it, and you go into it again, eyes wide open. If you're already married and you didn't have a prenup, you can do a postnup. Postnups are good in most states, I would say,
Okay.
but that's something you have to talk to a lawyer about because
Mhm.
not every state will recognize a postnup. That's a little bit different. Most people aren't going to get a postnuptial agreement unless their marriage is really on the rocks, right? So basically, it's okay. One person says, I want a divorce, or I'm leaving, or I want a separation, or I want whatever. The other person says, no, don't do that. And the one person may feel financially vulnerable. Let's say the one spouse is the stay at home parent, the other spouse is the breadwinner, and the stay at home parent says, look, I'm the stay at home parent. If we get divorced, I have no financial security. You're the one with the
Right.
career making the money. I can't do that. So I want some security. So they negotiate terms and say, okay, in exchange for not getting divorced, we're going to put this postnup into place. And it says what happens if we do get divorced with certain issues. Now, there's a lot of things postnups can't cover. Prenup's the same, but it's again, it's a conversation. You don't want to have to get to that point in your
Yeah.
marriage, but if you are at that point, people think they get stuck with the divorce decision. Do I stay? Do I go? Do I stay? Do I go? And they're stuck for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that you're stuck is because it feels so big, this decision. You're either married or you're divorced, and you look at it as a binary decision. When you look at it as it's either this or that, that's called an ultimatum. And it's easy to get stuck there. But when
Yeah.
you look at it differently, you open your eyes and broaden your perspective, you realize that it's not binary at all. You could have a trial separation, have a regular separation, you could do a postnup, You could stay married and you could stay married and go to therapy and actually work on your marriage and
Yeah.
make it better. That's a concept. Or you can go all the way through divorce, but there's a range of options. Now, the decision doesn't feel quite so momentous. You can kind of try on different ways of being in
Different ways
relationship.
of trying to work through it. Yeah.
And then that helps you come to the conclusion because I'm a big fan of marriage. My question when people work with me is if you want a divorce, did you try everything that you need to
Yeah.
try to be confident that this isn't going to work? And whatever you need to do, that's personal to you. It's not about my decision. I don't have skin in the game of what you decide. My job is to help you come to a decision, make a decision one way or the other so that you get off the fence and start living your life.
Yeah. I love that because, yes, I love love. And I love empowered people that are living their lives fully. And when you're in this muck of indecision, you're not living fully. You're just autopilot through life in the muck because it's just so painful and so
I know.
you can't make a decision. You can't even make a decision if 4 months from now we're going to take a family vacation or not because I don't know if I want to be with you in 4 months. So yeah, it's just really good that there's other things and people you out there that can support people to make the best decision for them. And what would be a parting piece of advice, the best advice you could give somebody that's kind of going through that indecision?
Get help.
Yeah.
Absolutely get help. I mean, it's a big decision.
Yes.
You shouldn't feel embarrassed or ashamed that you haven't been able to make it. Lots of people get stuck here, but when you're stuck and you've tried everything how to get out and you're still stuck, get help. Get a therapist, get a divorce coach, get someone who can help you look at your situation in a different way. Sometimes when you just shift your angle a couple of degrees, all of a sudden you're, oh, that's what I should do. That's what I want. This is how I feel. But you need someone else to talk through things to kind of shift your perspective.
Yeah. So how could people get a hold of you?
The easiest way is on my website. It's KarenCovy.com. That's
Mm.
KarenCovy.com. No E in Covey. And everything is there. I'm on all the socials at KarenCovy.com, but the best place is the website.
Okay, I'll make sure it's in the show notes at the end. And I just want to add a little disclaimer at the end. This is not for legal advice or therapeutic advice. Go and seek support of somebody in the profession. You're not alone out there. There's people there that can help support you through any of this. And this is just meant to be informational and educational in the end of the day. So thank you so much, Karen, for joining my audience today. And I so appreciate the connection and the work that you're doing. And it's just so, so valuable to decrease that gap between this or that, divorce or therapy. It's you're the whisperer of indecision for couples.
Well, thank you. I have so enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. All right, take care until next time. This is Christy Bemis with Authentic AF Conversations.